What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Paranormal Rush Hour. I'm your host, Ryan Rush. And today I want to talk to you guys about a little topic that is pretty controversial, especially if you follow any type of Bigfoot and Sasquatch research stuff. Man, this is like heavily debated. And the thing is, okay, it's heavily debated because few people have ever seen this, okay? And what I mean by seen this is few people have ever actually visually seen the act of this happening. You know what I mean? Like the, I guess, transformation period in between when this happens. See, that's the thing. It's debatable always, but I'm gonna get deeper into the theory of this in just a minute. First, I want to thank all of my new subscribers. Thank you so much for joining us here at the PRH. We really appreciate it. And also want to point out my new piece of art that I am displaying at the moment. This one is from my friend Leonard Mott Jr., who has been a long time subscriber of mine. Gosh, I don't even remember what year it was I started that. Anyway, my other channel, the one that I documented all the Sasquatch stuff that happens out here. And anyway, he drew this for me, and it was from 2019 when he drew it, actually. The video was probably from then. I remember when it happened, though. That's the cool thing about these, because I can look at these that he sends me, that he's drawn from what I've shown in the video, and I can remember actually being out there and finding it and just being amazed by it, because when you find things like this that are unnatural, and you know they're unnatural, and you know what put them there, then it's a really, really weird thing to experience that. It's different, but it's interesting. When this happened, I was out on my porch and I could actually hear sticks like breaking, and it sounded like massive sticks, like a log or a tree or something like that. But I never heard anything hitting the ground. So, I mean, it almost sounded like something was being pulled like out of a tree, like limbs, or they were like, brushing through the other limbs and stuff, like being pulled down or something like that. It was weird. And but I'd never heard anything thump, hit the ground, anything. And I was like, what is that? And I was like, what are they doing out there? And anyway, I think it was about 2 or 3 days later, something like that, when I got time, I went out there to the exact place that I heard the noises coming from. And it was in the woods just beyond where I have my yard kind of, cleared off. And it was back there, and this thing it was like an archway, almost. It was really weird. I've never found anything like it since then, for sure. But it was broken, like a big, long, I mean, it looked like it had to be almost the size of a tree or something. But it was long. It was, I'd say at least, if it were flattened out, it'd have to be at least 30 feet, because it was standing about 10 feet up, and like the highest points, and it was broken in a straight arch, and then it was broken down over here to where it just made a perfect like arch. It was the coolest thing. And I've never seen anything like that since then. But he drew that for me after I found it in the video. I was pretty amazed by it, because, I mean, they had to think that out. But they had it just standing there, and it stood there for a long time. I think it eventually got knocked down because we had like a massive storm come through where wind was like really strong. So I think it got blown down then, but it was neat. It was really neat. I'll put a link to the video down here in the description if you guys want to see it. But it was interesting though, because I also saw other sticks laying over like smaller bushes and saplings, I guess. They would be like laying on top of them, and it was kind of like, okay, it was like they broke something and like threw it on those where it wouldn't hit the ground and make a big noise or something. It was weird. They were all like compressed down because of the weight of what the sticks on it. It was weird. It's in that video too. But anyway, I'll just link it so you guys can see it if you want. If you don't worry. It's all good. Anyway. Yeah, cloaking. This is one of those things, man, that just really gets people every time. Oh, I'm sure somebody's going to have something to say about, watching this. I mean, it's just the way it is. All I can do is tell you what I have ascertained from my own experience collectively, like all accumulatively, what I have kind of come up with, in my own world of theory. That's all I can convey to you about the legitimacy of it. But I want you to know that there are a lot of people who really do feel they can do this. Okay, and I cannot say they can't. All right. This is the thing. All right, Sasquatch cloaking. All right, what it is, if you're not familiar with it, is the theory that they can, and someone would probably argue that I should say fact, but anyway, I'm going to go with what I said. But the theory that they can actually disappear or be invisible to us. So, in other words, we can't see them, but they could be right here around us. And I can't say that's not true, because I've had some weird experiences, really weird ones that I cannot explain out there in areas where it's apparent that they're there, that they have occupied this place that I was in. So I don't know, it's weird, but that's what it is. That's what people have claimed for a very long time too, that they could do. There was a Native American story that I got sent. Someone sent me in an email a long time ago on from my other channel, and they sent me this email that they had done a lot of research into Native American lore about the Sasquatch, and I think I had talked about cloaking or something like that, and they sent me this story in the email that they had found back in the day, where the Sasquatch, I guess, in order to become accepted as a male, like a adult male, a man in the tribe, they would have to jump out in front of a traveler on a trail and wave their hands in front of them without being seen. And if they could successfully do that, they would be accepted as a man of the tribe, a man of their group, their clan, or whatever. So I think that's pretty interesting that there's even stories of it going back that far. And that was a very old story is what they told. I cannot remember the exact year, but it was like at least 1800s or something. It was interesting though. Like, I mean, why else would that exist? Did someone just make it up and people just went with it from then on? Because I didn't hear about this stuff for a very long time. The whole idea that they can do things beyond the stuff we can do, beyond our capability or our ability. I think we are more capable, but we need to know how to be able to do it. But anyway, there are things that we have done which, probably would classify as cloaking. I mean, like I've heard stories, okay, about things that have been developed, technology, I guess. And one of them is from a guy who I think he worked at Lockheed Martin or something. This is a secondhand story, of course. I didn't hear this, but somebody told me this. And this guy said that they have helicopters that you cannot see or hear 10 feet behind you. And, it was like, what? And he was like, I promise you, you wouldn't believe what they can do. And so I think there is stuff like that exists. It has to. They've figured things out way beyond what they'll show us, So I think that we might be on the cusp of being able to do things that we didn't think we could do. But I don't know that we can do it on a spiritual level like they do, like unassisted by technology. Because I don't think, if they can do it, I don't think it involves technology. I think it involves knowledge. But I'll talk more about that another time. UFOs, though, are said to be able to do this. I think that UFO, I saw that one time out here when me and my best friend were standing right out here in front of the studio. And there's a big clearing out here. And there's a hilltop, like right directly in front of where the way we were facing. We were like looking right at it. And it is one of those places where you can always find a lot of signs that Squatches had been there and stuff. So I already knew, that it was a pretty active place. And the next thing I know, this blinking light is like just flashing, and it's just crazy because we've watched it forever. It was just like a pulsating light, that was changing color rapidly. It was like every pulse, it was a different color. I mean, it was neat, but really pretty, but it would like ascend and descend real subtly, just real subtle movements. And we watched this thing for probably 35, 40 minutes. And about 25 minutes or so after we first spotted it, I saw something come out of the sky, just appear almost, and shoot down past that light. And I've told this story before on here, just so you guys know. You're not going crazy. You have heard it, I'm sure. Anyway, but it's weird because now I think that it was cloaked because it went right past where that light was. And I think that the light actually illuminated it enough for me to be able to distinguish a shape, because it was an upside down semicircle is how it looked. It looked just like just like that shape. Ooh. And it was coming down, pretty quickly. So it went past where the light was shining really bright. And I think that illuminated it because it looked almost transparent. It was just like a shade lighter than the color of the sky. So it was something was making it to where it would be very difficult to see unless you're just looking right at that direct spot where it appears or where it's going to go, before it gets there and you're fixated on it. That's the only way I saw it. It was weird, really weird. Brian didn't see it because he was looking down at his feet when that happened. I was like, I wanted to smack him. Why would you look at your feet when there's a UFO? Anyway, we had to stop watching it though because eventually it got low enough to where it descended below the tree line. And that thing that passed by, it had to land somewhere. It was going so fast. It was not going to be able to. I don't know. It was going fast toward the earth. So it had to be able to stop somehow. I don't know. It was weird. It was one of the weirdest things I've seen. I can tell you that. but I think it may have been cloaked somehow. Because the more I think about it, it was dark everywhere except near that light, and it passed by it so close that I think some of the light from the pulses and stuff, because it would get dimmer and then it would get brighter, and I mean it would intensify, and then it would decrease and then it would increase in intensity, and it was neat how it was doing this. But once that thing, it seemed like once it got near it, it got brighter. And I wonder if that's what happened, though. It lit up whatever this object was. I've never seen anything like it since then. But I have seen a video that looks like that light that I saw. I have now seen a couple of them, I think. One of them, gosh, I wish I remember. I want to say, though, it may have been in that Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind movie. I think it might have been there. But there was another video, I think I saw it on one of those shows on the Travel Channel or something. But yeah, I saw that video. A video looked just like it. So it was neat. It was even changing color and stuff just like it. It was really interesting. So, but here's the thing too. There's like theories that other beings can do this. Other things out there can also become invisible. And it's kind of like a predator type thing. The way he looked when he was invisible, and, it just looked like a little bit of a distortion, from whatever he moved around and moved in front of, or whatever you want to call it. But that's what he did. And it was, I guess everything's been described just like that. Like predator looking. The people that say they've seen things like this they always relate it to the predator. So it makes me wonder, did they really know something, the people who made that movie? Or, is it just a theory that people latched onto and made a movie about? I don't know. But it deals with aliens, and aliens are one of those things that people say can also do things like this. So it makes me wonder. It really does. Are there multiple beings out there on this earth with us that can actually become invisible? That's one thing I really, really wonder about. And is everything that we see, are we just relating it all to the Sasquatch? Most people, or is that what they're doing, when it could be a gray alien or something stalking them, or who knows what? I'm just making an example. It could be a reptilian or something, any kind of other being. Can they do that too? Is everything that people have seen that looks like that one type of thing? I can't answer that, but that's something to think about, because a lot of the things said about these creatures say that they can do this kind of thing, and it's documented in movies and witness accounts and things like that. So it's likely that that's a good theory on it. But is it actually an ability of theirs, or is it knowledge? Is it something they just know how to do? Like, say if they're in a certain place at a certain time, is it something that they can do, on their own, by their own choice, like they choose when to do it? Or is it something they have to be in a certain place for, and then be in a certain place to get back? Or can they do it just at their own will, own free will, just blip in and out of parallel dimensions? And that's one thing people think, they are interdimensional. I've heard a lot of, and see, that's another thing. It makes me wonder, really, if this stuff can actually happen, because I've seen some really weird stuff occur. okay, that it just makes me wonder. One of those, I mean, a lot of the people who have close interaction with the Sasquatch will say that they are interdimensional beings. And most people I've noticed, most people that want to deny that are people who have not had as close of or any actually interaction with the Sasquatch. It's more like, okay, someone saw one once and they started researching evidence, but they never went past that point. They never got to the level of actually trying to interact with them. They just always researched evidence, went by what science could tell them. So they're going to have their head based in that belief system. I mean, it's just going to be there. If science can't explain it, it's probably not something they can do. And that's the way a lot of those people think. But they're the people who have not pursued close interaction. The people who have had close interaction, not necessarily, you don't really pursue it, not at first anyway. I mean, it's something that just kind of gets thrown into your lap in a way. Most of the time, that's how it goes. But when you do get to that point, you understand because you've seen things, you've experienced things that you cannot explain. Science could not explain. And you've seen it. It's real. So that's where the argument comes in. Because these people who haven't seen it, who haven't experienced it, they don't think that you're telling the truth about it. But that's just because they don't actually know. Even the people who don't think they're able to completely go invisible, those people still, most of them, when they have done enough research, they will agree with you that they have some sort of abilities. Because usually those people have experienced something. They've experienced them turning equipment on and off, or usually off. But they've experienced things like that. They've experienced things like, well, I don't want to get too far out there with that, but that is a common one right there. That happened to me the first time I saw one. They turned my camera off. And the only reason I know that is because it happened multiple times and still does since then. It's something that they can do. I've seen it so many times and on so many different devices. And that's the thing. It only happens when I'm around an area, and usually I'll get a feeling like something's around me too when it happens. But it's just weird. It's one of those weird things that they can do. And I really believe that. But some people, they'll believe, to a certain extent. They'll know that there's something else up with them. That they're not just flesh and blood creatures, that they are flesh and blood creatures, but they're highly spiritual beings too. And some people realize that, but they still don't think that they can be invisible and, things like that. Because that sounds outlandish. It really does. There's no way I could deny that. And I don't think anybody else could either. Even the people who have seen this stuff understand how outlandish it is, because we were like that at one time. We didn't quite believe everything we heard. I didn't. I mean, I know I was on the fence about a lot of things. I mean, at one time I was even on the fence whether they were real or not. That took seeing one for me to know. And that's usually what it takes for anybody to know something about them. It takes firsthand experience. That's usually how it is with any of the paranormal stuff. You can be a believer, but then you become a knower, and that changes a lot. It changes a lot about the way you think and the way you perceive things. It's a weird thing to go through. I can tell you that. I mean, I took a lot of time off from looking for evidence and interaction and habituation and stuff. I took about a year because I had gotten to a point where things got so weird that I had to really stop and let it sink in and kind of make a decision on whether I wanted to keep going with it and, embrace the change, or if I wanted to kind of give it up and try to go back to my other way of thinking, because it really does. It messes, with the way you perceive everything when you see certain things. And you can't deny that you've seen it, especially when it happens multiple times. Kind of, I don't know. But how would they, say they do know how to just transcend or travel to other dimensions. How would they interact from that dimension? Is it parallel to this one and they just know how to, pierce the veil and be able to reach into our dimension? Are there certain areas that they can go to where it's possible to go into the other dimension? Like the one that's right here beside us. I mean, you guys see what I'm saying? Is that the way they do it? Because that's one thing that I've really wondered about. Okay, if they're not just invisible in our dimension with us, are they in a parallel one where they know how to do things from it to this one and affect it? Like drop something over here, but stay over there. I mean, is that even possible? I don't know. That's when you get really deep into stuff and probably need a better mind than mine to think about it. But that's kind of where it leads me to. Like, I mean, that's getting into, quantum theories and stuff. But is that possible? Is that what they do? Because I know that I have seen things happen that made me really wonder, is there something there that I just can't see doing this? Is that how this happened? Because, I mean, one of those things was a few years ago. I always wear a ring on my pointer finger. I've done it forever. Years and years and years. And anyway, like high school. A long time. And I took my ring off and I put it on this counter, like right in between my kitchen and living room. And I put it up there and there was nothing there. And I went to bed and I got up the next day and there was a little rock in it, a little square cubed rock. And I've told this before too, but it got there. I know I did not put my ring over a rock when I put it down. I'm 100% sure of that. Nobody else would have done that. There was nobody else capable of doing that who had been up between the time I went to bed and got up. So I don't think that is the case. It was just strange. How did that get there? Okay, I would wonder if that wasn't the only thing that happened. There's been other things, like I came home one day and all my Blu-rays that I had on a shelf, a big long row of them, the whole thing, they were all turned with the spines facing down. Like someone had come and turned every one of them with the spine facing down. And it was just weird. I knew it wasn't like that when I went to bed because I was watching movies all the time at that point, and I would have noticed that for sure because it's like face level and it was like right by my door. So I'll look at it all the time. That's how I noticed it with the ones, all blue cases. It was just a line of blue. It was weird. Weird, man. And it was the top shelf, the highest one. So I was like, what is up with this? So that happened. I think that actually happened before the rock thing. So, well, how did that stuff happen? There's another thing that happened that was really strange, that I found really strange. Okay, I had a bowl of something that had been mixed up. Like I don't know, it wasn't a huge bowl, but it wasn't a real small one. It was like a mixing bowl, kind of one of those silver ones, but it was the smaller size. Anyway, something came into the house, had to have, and put 2 pieces of pine straw in an X formation over the top of that bowl on my kitchen counter. It was so weird. I was like, what is going on with it? That is weird. And I think that happened after the rock in my ring. So, see, things like that occur when you start interacting with them. And anyone who's interacted with them can tell you things like that will happen. There's nothing you can do about it. There was that other night where I was putting one of my kids to bed, and one of the pom-poms in their room was draping off the shelf just like this. And it was like the streamers were coming down, and it started moving like someone was taking it and like batting it with their hand or something. It was weird. And I sat there and watched it for about 10 seconds, and it stopped, and all of a sudden it just stopped and came flying down like someone jerked it off the shelf, went and hit the floor. It was weird. And nothing was in there. It was just happening. And, it had one of those really long white plastic sticks, like one of those you get at a pep rally or something. And it was like all the way back in that shelf. It wasn't just going to fall off on its own. It had to be pulled. I mean, it was weird. Really weird. But, and that's probably the weirdest thing I've seen, really, that happened. And things like that haven't really happened in a while. The other day, something did happen that I wasn't sure about, though. I mean, if it was, I don't know what it was, but something happened. I wasn't 100% sure, though, so I didn't make a big deal about it. But it's not like something that would happen all the time. I just told you about those stories back to back. There's like a span of years, that this happened over. So it's weird. It's not like a constant occurrence, But every now and then it's like they let you know, we're still here. And it's weird because nothing like that ever happened before I started, trying to gain a rapport with them. And it was weird stuff, man. I'm not going to go into anything deeper than that, but I do want to say, okay, back to the cloaking thing. The whole idea of them disappearing. Brian and I, my best friend Brian, and he's in a lot of my videos from earlier on, we would go and do night investigations out here in some of these real active spots. And we had a lot of weird experiences. There's no question. And one of the times, though, we weren't even out recording any videos or looking for anything. We just went to get some firewood from a campsite up here, up on a hilltop, where I had some firewood stashed. And I drove the truck up to it and backed it in to the campsite. And I backed it right up to a picnic table we had up there. So we were going to get out and load the wood. And we get to where the picnic table is. I was standing like diagonally from where he was standing. And he was over here like further away from the tailgate, and I was closer to it on the other side. And something that was like about 30 feet in the direction like diagonal to where we were, where the picnic table was, started moving around in the leaves real violently, thrashing around. And we were like, what in the crap is that? And Brian says, I don't know, man, but it is big. And right then we started hearing breaths, just like, whoo, whoo. I mean, crazy. And we started hearing footsteps, like just thumping down the side of this hill. I mean, it was running like sideways, like parallel to us. And we heard it just thump, thump. Like, we were like, what is that? And I had a little flashlight. This is what I think kind of startled it anyway. My flashlight was not real bright, but it was bright enough to see around with. And I'd forgotten to get a bigger one, which I normally would have with me. But I had that one in my pocket, so I just got it out instead of worrying about trying to find the firewood in the dark. And I was looking around a little bit, just shining it around. And when I shined it in the direction where he came from, that's when we heard the leaves start, going around. Something sticking to this paper. It's driving me nuts. Sorry. Anyway, so this thing was just thumping toward us. And it was probably about 8 feet away, like its path was probably about 8 feet away from where I was standing. Like 8 feet in front of me. And I know that because there was a tree it passed right behind it. And I caught it with my light as soon as it got up near me. And I could see the hair. I could see exactly what it was. It was a squatch, man, a big squatch. And he was hunched over. And he was still taller than I was. And he was running on an incline that was at least 4 feet. Or at least 3.5 to 4 feet lower than the ground I was standing on. He had to be massive. I mean, 8 feet or above for sure. So, I mean, I'm about 6 feet, so he had to be really tall. His eyes were like right above mine. And I saw the eye shine. That's how I knew exactly where his eyes were. And then, once he got right there, he like turned his head, and I saw his eyes shine. And then he veers off and goes down the hill. And when he went down the hill, he took about 5, 7, maybe more steps, probably about 5, and went dead silent. Nothing. I was like, where did he go? Brian and I could not figure it out. Because there were no, big old trees running around. I mean, where he could run behind and hide or anything like that. Nothing on that hillside. It was very clear. And the leaves, there's like 2 years worth of dead leaves always on the ground around here in the woods. I mean, anywhere you go down here, it's like running on cornflakes, man. Loud. Crunches every step. You can hear it. And we did not hear any other noises from that direction whatsoever. And we went down there, looked around, no sign of anything. Where did he go? I mean, he didn't get that far down the hill. He didn't go in a direction where he could have like just run off into the woods and us not hear him. What happened? That boggles my mind. I mean, I know the answer, but I don't know, I told you I'm not going to get that deep. I'm just going to act like that's all I know. No, but that's the kind of thing that makes you start wondering, what in the world? Are these people telling the truth that have seen this stuff or that know this stuff or that claim this stuff? I mean, it makes you start wondering. And that's what sets you on the path to try to find out other answers. But it's weird because, I know a lot of people who are actually credible. They're not they're not kooks, they're not loony crazy people. They're normal people who believe this because they've seen things. Okay, one of these people is Barb Shoop. She's got a YouTube channel called Barb Shoop. It used to be called Barb and Gabby. Gabby was her dog. She was real cute. I used to like watching Barb and Gabby's videos. I still like Barb's channel, but I'm just saying, Barb's really nice. She's a really nice lady. And she's been studying the Sasquatch for a long time and interacting with them for many years. And she's not crazy or, just a weird out there person. She's very down to earth. And she has a video that she recorded a while back about, and it's supposed to be, well, I mean, it's something that looks like the Predator type thing that happens. And the thing is, she's in a very active Sasquatch area where she lives and where this happened. I mean, it's very active. So it's just weird though, because something happened and there's witnesses other than her, and it's on video. And it's just strange. I know some of you guys have seen it, I'm sure. I mean, it's been viewed a lot. I think it's got probably 200,000 views or something. But it's a good video. And I've talked to two of the other people who had been there, Sam and Claudia. And they both say that's what happened. Something was over there and something moved. And it was invisible. But you could see just barely see the outline of it moving. Like just the distortion of where it was moving. So it was really weird. I'll link that video to the description too. Barb's really nice. But unfortunately, Gabby got old, did what old dogs usually do eventually. So that really sucks. But anyway, it was really cool though, because I think she's got new puppies now that go with her. But it was a cool channel that she had, and she would go do these camp outs and all that stuff, and they ended up getting used to them, being around. And the ones out there, she's in Washington. The ones out there in Washington seem to be more mild-mannered than ones, for instance, in the South, and especially like in Texas and Oklahoma over there, more, toward the western side. Those seem to be, the ones in the middle seem to be kind of temperamental, more so than any of the other ones I've heard of. I've heard of the most huge, like the biggest ones coming out of Oklahoma and Texas, like 12 to 15 feet, which just blows my mind. I don't know if that's an accurate thing, but I have heard claims of 15 feet. So I think that's probably the tallest I've heard of, but there are people who claim that. So that's weird too. But I don't know. I've just heard of the way they act is a little nicer when you're closer to the coast. Especially the West Coast though. For some reason, it seems like the ones especially up north, like Washington, they're nicer. They're more willing to interact with people. And I'm not sure why that is. But, I mean, I'm not saying it's hard to gain that kind of trust with them in other places. But you do have to go out there and show them, that you're a trustworthy person. And that you're not going to come back with, guns and people and try to do things, stuff like that. There's ways to go about it, but I don't recommend people go out and try to do that anywhere that they can and stuff like that, because you just never know what you're going to be interacting with. You kind of have to be sure about things before you start trying to get that, get closer to them. So you really do have to like put in some time and understand for sure what you're dealing with so that you know how to go about it. So I don't want people to think I'm just saying go out and try to, trying to meet you a Squatch or something. But it's not something you just, you want to get a feel of things before you go trying to do something like that. Because you might be dealing with one that doesn't like anybody. Or you might be dealing with a completely different creature that you know nothing about. And I don't know. You just have to make that decision. But anyway, the Barb footage happened in April of 2014. So this theory has been around a while, and it was around well before that. And people have been talking about it for a long time. So it has to have, come from somewhere. It's come from someone with the knowledge in order for that idea to even be brought up. Somebody has to have some knowledge about it somewhere. And it had to be, conveyed to somebody else. So that's how it's wound up being a theory in the first place. Did it come from credible sources? A lot of Native American lore, I don't know if somebody made it up or if it's an actual recorded story, it's hard to say. But it's interesting that it comes up at all. The idea is there, and it originated from somewhere, so can they do it? I know that's the question I'm pushing, but that's the thing. You got to discern from what you've learned yourself and make your own decisions about that, because it's like the other things. You can't force someone to believe something like that because it is crazy. But you have to go with what your beliefs lead you to and what your experiences lead you to. So it's weird. It's a weird thing to consider that there are other things that can do these types of, or have these types of abilities. But, I wonder, can they all do it? Or is it something a skill that you have to develop with the knowledge that you're given? Do you have to work on it and develop the ability to do it? Or, hone your ability to do it and get better at it and practice it, and years later you'll be able to? Or is it something you're born with? Is it you have the ability within you always, and you just have to know how to do it? I wonder if that's the case. It seems like, though, if the Native American story is true, that would seem that learning how to do it comes with some merit. So knowing how to do that would prove that you're worthy of being a trustworthy adult within your tribe. That means that it would be an act of skill, a display of what you can do, your ability to be that type of person, or that whatever, you know what I mean? So that makes me wonder too, if it's just an innate thing, or if it's an innate thing that they have to learn about, and that's why we can't do it, because no one teaches us like they're taught. Or is it the knowledge of knowing where these places are that you can do it through, that you can go to and skip a dimension or whatever, transcend time and space and all things. Lower your vibration, raise your vibration to be able to travel different places. Is that how they do it? See, there's a lot of that crazy theories that come into play with all this. And you're just talking about something that, I mean, it trips people out because they're portrayed as an ape, as a big old gorilla, something that's mildly intelligent that could possibly live out in the woods, the missing link, in our Darwinist perspective. It's just like, I don't know. But then there's also this theory, about their DNA, because they did that whole DNA study and the genome project or whatever. They Melba Ketchum and I think David Paulides was a part of it. But they did all that, back years ago. And they determined that there was human DNA. But the other part was like unknown. So it makes me wonder, okay, did something really, and I think that Zachariah Ketchum, or I say Ketchum, anyway, Sitchin, or whatever his name is, that theory, about the Anunnaki coming down and messing with our genetics, did they come down and actually create us from the beginnings of us, or the primates, and we go through these stages until we get as humanistic as we are now? So is that what they did? And the Sasquatch is just one of those things that happen to be intelligent enough to stay away from the rest, like we do from the monkeys, and section off into your own little faction of DNA experiment results. It makes me wonder if stuff like that's true. Who knows? Who knows? This is all just stuff for you guys to ponder with me. Anyway, it's all fun. They're supposed to be. But that Barb footage was really interesting, I have to say. I mean, I was always really impressed by it because I knew she didn't make that up. She's not going to do that. And there were eyewitnesses that saw the same thing, that saw it happen. And I've talked to them and heard what they have to say about it, and heard how passionately they explained what happened and told me it was real. I saw it. So it was something to think about. There was that other time when I was actually out riding my bike down a trail that's close to my house. It's paved and people walk on it and stuff like that. I mean, it's, a little bit down the road, but not a crazy distance. Anyway, it's some old train tracks that were paved. And I was on that trail and I stopped and got off because I saw some sticks, that looked just kind of placed weird. So I thought, well, I'm going to get off and take a look and see if, there's any signs of squatches being there. And when I got up there, yeah, you could definitely tell they had done stuff up there, and they had even sectioned off little areas with logs, stacked them up like 2 or 3 high, and squared off like little areas. It was weird. So I started walking around through those, and I stood there like recording some of the other stuff that they had put up there. And all of a sudden, I get this feeling like something gets really close to my face. And it's like I can feel body heat, and I can hear the sound change with, how something like obstructs your hearing path. It gets a little bit louder and more directional, more direction oriented or whatever. It sounded like that. Like when someone leans in to like tell you a secret or something. Gets real close. That's what it was like. And it freaked me out on the video. I was like, whoa. Like, I reacted to it real abruptly. And it was just weird. I mean, it was like something was right there, really close to me. And nothing was there. I did not see a thing. But after that happened, there was this, like, something that looked just like the head of a Squatch come up in the distance, like on the video. One of my subscribers found it after I'd uploaded it. So that made me wonder, was there really something out there that got real close to me and I just couldn't see it? See, that's the kind of stuff I'm talking about that makes me really consider that and not dismiss it as some crazy theory. That all the weird stuff I've seen out here, like the forest lights and, things like that, you just can't explain that stuff. When you see the glow of a street light in an area where there is no electricity whatsoever, like the middle of the woods, it's not a light. I mean, it's just crazy. It's crazy. So how do you explain that kind of stuff? And you have to be open to it. It may not have a place in science. And, that's another thing. It may not be somewhere that can be explained, or something that can be explained through science. And I believe that that's the case with this Sasquatch stuff a lot of the time. I mean, people try to bring science into it to prove things, but our science is primitive compared to other races. What if theirs is way more advanced than ours? And that's why they don't need all the crap that we have. I mean, that's another thing I think about. How much older are they than us? Or if they are at all. And if they are at all, why haven't they, because I know they're smart enough to, why haven't they gotten as technologically advanced as us? And it's probably because they don't need to, because they are so much more spiritually advanced than us. That's what I think. And who knows? Maybe that's the reason they know how to slip in and out of dimensions or travel to other places through portals, or who knows what. Who knows what they can do. Anyway, it's just fun to theorize about everything. But there comes a point sometimes when your theories turn into facts. And that's happened to me a few times with things that I really thought I'd never see. And I can't say that it won't happen again or it will happen again. Who knows? All I know is I've been wrong a few times. So if you don't really know, then don't totally dismiss something just because you don't like how it sounds or it doesn't fit your idea. Because my whole perception of things changed a lot. And I was not a real young person when that happened. So, I mean, the way I looked at the world changed a lot once I saw something that wasn't supposed to be real right in front of me. That changes you. So anyway, I'm just going to leave it at that, guys. I was just wanting to talk about this a little bit. Someone had brought it up to me one day, and I thought, well, might be a interesting topic to give my POV of. So anyway, I appreciate everybody watching. And remember, if you didn't like this one, you might like the next one. So don't give up on me. All right, I appreciate it, everybody. I hope you all stay safe, and I'll be back with you guys real soon with some more paranormal. I've got other emails to read you guys. And if you want to send me one, send me your experience, anything paranormal that you've experienced. I'll be glad to read it. I keep you anonymous by default. So if you want me to use your name, tell me you don't care in the email and send it to paranormalrushhour@gmail.com and I'll check it out. So anyway, I appreciate it. And I hope everybody stays safe, stays well, and I'll see you guys soon. Take it easy.